Obviously, I'll just give it another minute or so. We're just a little bit ahead of schedule. How is everybody?
Fine.
Tussling with IT. Or one of these wonderful web generators that doesn't let you actually change the wording that you need to change.
Don't even take me there. Otherwise, we'll fill up the rest of the session with our complaints about those things. Okay, Nick, how many people on?
You might need to use the chat, I think, if you can't hear you.
Yeah. Maybe the case. Hi, Laura.
Hello.
But I'm
Hi,
showing
Laura.
15 people. Hi, Laura. I'm showing
Hello.
15 people at the moment.
That's excellent. Thanks, Gareth. I've only got one screen here, so I can't see. I can't see the critical information, which is what I have Nick on to.
You just got to click on participants on the bar and it pops it up.
Yeah, except I don't, because I've got the PowerPoint on the screen as well. It's hiding the screen on me. Bit of a challenge. Right, okay, I make it just gone 12. Should we kick off then? Well, good morning, everyone. I hope you're all okay and enjoying yourself. As you can see, it's still dark here. So I'm still feeling sort of quite sleepy at the moment, even though I've been up for ages. Right, okay, so hopefully we have with us, we've got Gareth, who I can see on the call.
Hello.
We have Liz. Hi, Liz.
Hi, Malcolm. Hi, everybody.
And we have Laura. Hi, Laura.
Afternoon, everyone.
Okay, I don't know if we have Naomi. Do we have Naomi with us?
Yes, you do. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Naomi. And we should have Nick, but I'm not quite certain what's happened to Nick at the moment. Yeah, Kevin is on holiday. So Kevin contacted me earlier just to remind me he was on holiday. If I would forget, eh? Right, okay, so following last week's session, I've now set up a WhatsApp group. So to register on the group, there's a link there. I'll send this out in the handouts. It's not a very nice and easy link, but you can just paste it from the handouts. So that will get you access. A number of people have already joined on that link. And I've also put another link in here, which sort of tells you about WhatsApp if you've not used it before. But in a nutshell, it runs on any mobile phone. You just download the app to your smartphone. Once it's running, you can also use the web version. You have to have the mobile phone version active on your phone in order to use the web version. It has end-to-end encryption, so it's secure. And if I could just remind people that if you do come in on the link, don't forget to set yourself some kind of name, because at the moment I've got about 9 people, all of whom have long numbers, which presumably they're mobile phone numbers. So I've got no idea who is saying what. You can call yourself whatever you want. We don't particularly care, do we, Laura?
No, I still have the phrase, I'd like my dog's life.
It might be worth pointing out, Malcolm, just for security, that of course you do reveal your mobile phone number to other members of the group. So if you're desperate to avoid getting lots of strange phone calls from people, then maybe.
Yes, absolutely. But part of this is, of course, it is a closed group, so you would be sharing it with other members of that group. But Gareth is quite right. If you don't want Gareth or I ringing you up in the middle of the night, then probably this might not be the group for you. But But or more likely, you're going to get Kevin ring you up in the middle of the night. But anyway, I've set up the group, and you can discuss whatever you want, as long as it's kind of related broadly to the area. But again, we don't mind, and so that's up and running. Liz, you've already posted, haven't you, on the group?
I have.
So yeah, and I'll also put across onto the group the links to the handouts, etc. Okay, so that's the WhatsApp group done. And normally at this time we would look at stats. Stats are still pretty much as they have been for a while. They're fairly consistent. Just number of claims that got submitted via the BEX system to our customers in the last week, and you see a straight line through the middle shows it's maintaining its balance. It's sort of moving into the 2019 numbers really at this point in time, but I think you can expect numbers to continue to remain high for a while. Is that how you're experiencing it, Laura?
Absolutely. It's an understatement.
Same for you, Naomi?
Yeah, our caseload is reducing, but that's not to say that we're not having applications every week.
Yeah, it looks to me like people are applying. I mean, particularly if we look at the number of claims started, that is still high, but the numbers getting through seem to be steadying. So, yeah. Okay, so last week you all told me that you wanted to become more engaged with the conversation, so we're going to give that a go this week. Nick, by any chance have you joined us?
Yeah, no, I don't know what it was. There's just no sound coming out my laptop, but it's all good now.
Okay, good. So you can see if people raise their hands. Also through the WhatsApp group, I asked what did we want to talk about this week, and I was told that work arrangements, we wanted to revisit those. We spoke about them a little bit a couple of weeks ago. We wanted to return to those, and actually what I'm going to do is come out to the audience to ask what you're actually doing. So in terms of kind of a rough idea about what we want to talk about, you know, what are the plans that each of you have for returning to work? What are the issues? Things like home versus office versus hybrid, keeping everyone involved, training, performance monitoring, no jab, no job, reopening front desk telephony, and also the use of things like Teams and Zoom for both with staff and with customers, and of course people like ourselves, third parties, and there a focus on logical solutions. So can I start off with the panel? So Gareth, I mean, I know you're a private company. How are you approaching some of this?
Well, we're trying to be very flexible. So what we're just saying to people is we want somebody in the office every day. So we just have a little bit of a kind of a rota there, so that we just keep the place manned, mostly because of physical post, I think, rather than anything else. But we're finding the online links, and we have things like a Slack group, which is great for odd little comments and things. That's another kind of online system that lets you just post to a group using effectively text, and that works really well. We were very lucky. We moved to a Swish new voice over IP telephone system a couple of months before the pandemic broke out. So effectively our telephones are entirely location independent. So if you ring the office number for me, it just comes through on my mobile phone. So we're lucky and we're smooth, and because most of our stuff is digital, it doesn't really matter what we do, or rather where we do it.
Yeah, that's very similar for us, as I can testify, being hear yes, the phone rings just as though it's ringing wherever it would be in the UK. Unfortunately, it's quite often at like 2 o'clock in the morning. But anyway.
One commercial thing I should add, and it's really quite sort of unexpected, is that because we've moved all of our training from face to face to online, that's actually doing really well, because we're getting people that said, oh, we could never have actually afforded to send somebody, you know, from Northern Ireland to the UK for a training course, but it's great for us to be able to do it in sessions online. And we've moved our one-day courses into having 2 half-day sessions instead, and that seems to give people more flexibility as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think people are generally getting more used to online training?
Oh, certainly they are now, yes. It's very different. There are things that you can do better and things that are more difficult. And you do lose the chats over lunch and so forth. But on balance, it works pretty much as well. And of course, it's a lot more cost effective.
Yeah, absolutely. We operate a virtual pub to try and address some of those issues. I'm not certain it's been very successful. Has it been successful, Nick, the virtual pub?
He's
No,
still in it.
not really. Yeah, we tried, and we, but I think it was all right to start with, but then people have different things to talk about, and you can't all talk at the same time, can you, in a virtual pub? So I think the idea of it being a pub made it a bit harder. We'll try again, I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay. So, Laura, what are you doing in Oxford?
We are going to be permanently home based, so we've got an allocation of the whole of financial services. I've got 3 desks, of which we will book them in as such, but the priority of the building is for those front facing services such as environmental health, planning, you know, departments that need to go out and about in the city in order to fulfill their role. That is very much the priority. Can I just touch on the conversation about training, which is quite interesting because we are in the middle of a system migration, for those that aren't aware, from Academy over to Civica. And I have to say, from a training point of view, it has been challenging. And this week I am on system migration training. So I'm learning how to process a claim, which in its own right is a challenge. It's been a while since I've done that. But when you're in a room, when we're in virtual rooms at the moment on Teams in groups of 6, it is really hard when you're looking at a screen on one, then you've got a screen on another, which is your own computer. I have to say, anybody that has to do any system training, it is very different to when you're doing presentations on EEA nationals or income changes in the legislation. When you're doing system training, it is very challenging. And I think from my experience of so far this week, and I've had a single day course previously with our scanning team, I'm finding that there are people that possibly we employ at Oxford, and I'm sure it's going to be the same across all other councils, where technology isn't the forefront of their mind, but they're very good at their job. So if you said to someone, look across the toolbar across the top, the person's going to say, what's the toolbar? Because they're not used to that phraseology of technical places and that fear of navigation and being pulled behind, because it must be quite hard for the trainer, because a bit like you've got here now, Malcolm, you can't necessarily see everything that's available to you because you've got your PowerPoint presentation up. It's exactly the same for the poor guys at Civica, and this is no detriment to Civica at all because it is a good course, but they can't see on the people's faces if they've got what they've said and grasp the point. You know, so from a trainer, it must be really difficult teaching technical stuff online remotely. It must be.
Yeah, you need 2 screens really, so that you can split out the team's base from the presentation, which isn't always possible. I don't have the space here for 2 screens.
Absolutely, I still got staff sitting on a kitchen table.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah, could you lend them the money for a chair?
Okay, so Naomi, what's happening in Cambridge?
Well, in Cambridge, we've been working at home even before the pandemic, only sort of 2-3 days a week. and most people have got dual monitors and that setup. So that does help. It's sort of down to the individual, but I think for the most part, many people will work predominantly from home and only go in for specific meetings and training. There are, however, some individuals for whom 100% home working is not for them. So we will let them into the office, not every day of the week. And we've certainly cut down on our office footprint. I think we've got between 4 and 6 desks for the whole of Redfern End.
And that is an issue, isn't it? It's about home working is not suitable for everybody.
Well, yeah, you do need to be mindful of an individual's home circumstances. They may not have the space, they may not have the setup, they might find it isolating, or conversely, there may be other distractions at home that make working from home difficult for them.
Yeah, I mean we've experienced that as well. We've got one person who is struggling very much working from home, and has gone back to the office even though they are the only person in the office.
I think that's quite a good point, Malcolm, that some people might be wishing to go back into the office because they really enjoyed how it was before the pandemic. It's not going to be like that. There's going to be so few people there. I do think that their expectations won't be met, so that they might not be going in as much as they thought they would have done. Yeah,
it's tricky. Liz, I'm not going to come to you now, but I do want to.
I was actually going to make the point that Naomi's just made, so there's no point in coming to me. I do think that actually it's not only working from home, it's working in the office that is going to be different from pre-pandemic.
Yeah, do you think that there is a risk that you may end up with a two-tier workforce? You know, people in the know who are in the office and people.
Well, I think that's the point, really. I'm not sure that people in the office will be any more in the know than anybody else. I mean, certainly with hot desking, you know, I mean, as Laura said, they've got 3 or 4 desks. Well, where are those 3 or 4 desks? They're not necessarily grouped together, or at least one would think not with hot desking. It's the desk you can find. Just an allocation, isn't it? So,
yes, yeah.
You know, I think people will find it very different coming back into the office. I mean, there's a difference between those people who need to work from the office because, as Naomi said, they cannot work from home. I mean, there are issues of long ago when we first started it. Of course, you couldn't work from home if you didn't have anywhere where you could almost isolate because of data protection and privacy issues. Somebody shouldn't be able to walk around you and be able to see your screen. Well, okay, there are ways of doing that now, but you know, it's going to be different whichever you do. Those people that can't work from home need to be able to come to the office. So where does that leave those people who actually prefer to work from the office? You've only got 4 desks. They may not have the opportunity to work more than 1 day a week.
No, so logistics will start to develop as something else that needs to be considered. Nick, has anybody raised their hand to join in this conversation at all?
Not as yet. Just leave it pause. Oh, someone's just messaged something now. Oh, it's Naomi.
I mean, we would like to hear from the delegates out there. That's what we were asked for last week to give. Would anybody like to volunteer and tell us what they're doing at their local authority?
You have a hand up, Malcolm. Amanda.
Yes. So. Yeah. Please let's open the mic.
Only you can open the mic.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Hi. Yeah. We've kind of got a strange situation here because not just with the COVID situation, but we've also gone to a unitary authority. In conjunction with all of that, though, there are plans afoot to look at minimizing our overall estate across all of the amalgamated councils. So it is likely that we will remain with a hybrid working from home situation going forward, and probably very similar to other local authorities, is pretty much front-facing people that have returned to the office.
Now, if I remember correctly, you're Northampton, is it?
Northampton, yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
So you're faced with two things going on at the moment. One is merging. How many councils is it? 3 or 4 councils into one?
It's 4 districts and the county, part of the county council functions.
Okay, and in addition to that, you've had the pandemic and working from home. Now you're thinking about returning. I mean, presumably, your local authority was looking at reducing the estate in the first instance.
Well, my old district, not really. We'd already got very few people anyways. So our estate was pretty much being underutilized. So yeah, there was no real need for any more buildings from our point of view. Now things are a bit different, and we're having to relocate staff that used to be part of county into various places. They've been split, and so now they're half coming to the former districts, is looking for something that is smaller and can still accommodate, or we have to make massive investment in technology so that they can work from home. They currently can't.
No, okay, and so I mean, one of the questions is are you spending more? And this is the same for the panel as well. Are you spending more on technology?
Oh, that's going to be something that will have to happen without a doubt going forward. There's so many projects at the moment. We're still pretty much in this whole process of amalgamating all of our workforce and just trying to provide the services as is. There will be a big spend, but this year it's all about checking that the budgets are what they're supposed to be, because they're only informed by the information that was received from all the previous councils. And then dealing with the already previously agreed projects. Yeah, technology's down the road.
I think Laura wants to come in, Malcolm.
Yeah, okay, please open the line.
Hi, Amanda, it's Laura. Just a quick
Hi,
question. So from the Wellingborough point of view, because I'm assuming you're still at Wellingborough, as I will call it.
I'm still here in the old building. Yeah.
So when I used to work there, we had the trolley with all the paper claims on. Have you had to have that was a bit until you started speaking, I suddenly dawned on me, how does home working work when you haven't got a chip system?
We were one of the last councils to actually get digital imaging. We did do it eventually, Laura.
Oh.
2018 though. So now I sit here surrounded by monitors. Yeah, it was 2018, and we still have occasions where we have to get the old paper files out for things, because literally we're just talking about 2 years ago. We miss the paper files, but we've all got used to looking at things on monitors now. We have quite a few monitors. I have 3 on my desk at the moment, and I have 3 at home. So when I work from home, I also require that. I very rarely work from home though.
Okay, so I mean, at this point in time, if you're thinking of possibly site relocation, which, like you say, if some of the staff aren't there where they used to be, you know, how will that affect your customer services? And would you still expect your public to pop into Swans Pool, or are they going to?
These are matters that are above my pay grade. Yeah, I won't be making those kind of decisions. My own personal point of view, I do think that we'll always need a customer contact. But like I say, that's not in my area of decision making. So
I'm just thinking from historical reasons, the client base in Wellingborough likes coming into the council to
absolutely. But COVID has really forced a channel shift.
Good.
All the way through COVID, we have seen customers on an appointment-only basis, people who are vulnerable or people who have been unable to access technology to engage with us. Yeah. So we have carried on seeing them in a safe manner. So at the moment, it's been a channel shift for the customers, and it's whether or not there is an appetite to maintain that or to go back to the type of services that we used to deliver.
Oh, good luck, Amanda.
Oh, cheers. Yeah.
Thank you,
Exciting
Amanda.
stuff. Thanks.
Cheers. And Nick, has anybody else raised their hand who'd like to come in and tell us about their local authority?
I was going to leave a dramatic pause then, but Megan's just put a hand up.
Okay, let's like to hear from Megan.
Hiya, yeah, I'm at Mid Sussex and we have had our offices open the whole way through. I haven't been working from home at all. There's about a third of the team that are still in the office. And then since things have opened up a bit more, we've got other people coming in 1 or 2 days a week, and then some people that are still staying at home all the time. And using Teams to carry on communicating it is working quite well, and there's no plans to change it as yet.
Yeah, Kevin contacted me earlier to say that it was all going swimmingly, but how's this kind of affected Mid Sussex in terms, because you work quite closely with colleagues in other local authorities, don't you?
Yeah.
Is Teams just facilitating more working with other colleagues?
Well, we're using it mainly to keep in touch with the team. So we have morning meetings every morning, 3 times a week. They're not work related, and it's just to kind of keep in touch. So you still got that same feeling as if you were all in the office, and then twice a week it is work related, to catch up on anything new.
And can I ask, in fact, can I ask all of you? I mean, is anybody using Teams or Zoom or any of these facilities to do customer meetings? You know, it's a meeting with the citizens.
This Teams is our phone service now as well, so we're not using it for video calls, but it is how we get all our calls in from the public. I'm sure Kevin's told you we had an office-based phone system to start with, so for the first sort of 8 months of the pandemic, we had to have people in the office to answer the telephones.
Many times, he told me.
Malcolm, from my point of view, we use WhatsApp. We find most of our public use WhatsApp, and so we do audio or face calls on WhatsApp for people.
Oh, right, okay, because I mean that makes quite a lot of sense. I mean, WhatsApp is hugely more popular than we kind of imagine. I mean, statistically, I think it's the 3rd most popular social media tool at the moment, behind Facebook and Twitter. Is anybody using Facebook to do customer contact at all, or Twitter? There's a resounding silence there. You're not doing that at Cambridge, are you, Naomi?
No, I struggle with 1 or 2 officers picking up the blooming phone, let alone anything else.
Okay, that sounds fair enough. Okay, is there anybody else want to come in and tell us what they're doing in their local authorities? Have we got any Scottish authorities on today, or be quite interested to hear what's happening up in Scotland? Local authorities. Yeah, go on, Laura.
Can I just ask a question? I don't know if anybody's thought about where you put here, no jab, no job. Is anyone actually predicting? I mean, I can say this, in Oxford, despite the fact that we created the vaccine, we've got one of the lowest turnouts for uptake of the vaccine at 15%. And I've been asked to forecast for my CTR expenditure next year. Am I expected to see an increase where people will lose their jobs because they haven't been jabbed? And I didn't know if anybody else is starting to think about that.
I was going to say, let me add something to this. I mean, there are slides on the no jab, no job in the handouts. One of the interesting things I think about this is that British law probably isn't going to make it particularly easy to go down that route. There certainly has to be probably some kind of change to legislation. And it's certainly probably a bit of a dynamite field. But behind that are the big American corporations. So over here in America, they are starting now to actually apply the no jab, no job line There's a number of examples in the handout, but the key ones for us, of course, are the big companies like Google and Amazon, who are applying those. And Google say that they plan to roll out the no jab, no job rules internationally from around about October, November time. So stuff is coming, Laura.
I think they'll find they have difficulty from country to country, though. I mean, it's okay in America where most people are employed at will and you can fire anybody anytime for no reason. That's not true in the rest of the world. And I used to do a bit of employment law, and I've done some development work on things recently. And I think if you went to an employment tribunal on the basis of that, there would be all sorts of really interesting arguments that will take a very, very long time to sort out.
Yeah, I agree, Gareth, because one of the big issues, of course, is finding that balance between people who don't want to have the jab for whatever reason and their rights to do so, and wanting to return to the office, and other people in the office who actually have completely the opposite point of view. There is a risk that you could end up losing members of staff from either side of the argument, depending on which way it all goes, doesn't it?
I think I'm not even worrying about the reason behind it. I'm just thinking about kind of the legal argument. So if you were to have a rule that said you couldn't have a job if you hadn't been injected, I would be arguing about the fact, well, are you arguing about the injection, or are you arguing about the fact that it's worked? In which case, do you have to produce an antibody statement? Do you have to have measures of all these different sorts of things? I think it would be really hard to draft legislation around that, because you could draft it relatively easily on the grounds of somebody having had a needle stuck in their arm, but that wouldn't necessarily meet the underlying intention.
Welcome. Lynn's patiently had her hand up for a couple of minutes. Hopefully we're still on topic.
Okay. Let's bring them in. Yeah.
Hi everyone. Laura, I was just interested about your take up. Is that because obviously you've got a lot of students in Oxford, so the younger people either haven't got round to being injected or not? And I totally agree with Gareth's point about how difficult it would be to actually implement no jab, no job, because it will be challenged from a huge point of view. So it was just really interested in what people are doing. I mean, are people still in offices, still applying some social distancing or masks or things like that?
So from an Oxford point of view, yes, when we do go into the office, we have to put our masks on. We have to declare which desk we're going to be sitting at. And when you sit at your desk, you can be mask free. You're not allowed to sit at any old desk. There's certain desks, they all face certain ways. You're only allowed to one in the kitchen at any time, one in the toilet, but you're not allowed to eat at your desk because of hygiene issues. So i.e. you should be eating outside. And if you go to the photocopier, for example, you have to have your face mask on, and you're not allowed to have gatherings of staff talking to each other. But that's as of today. I mean, it may change because of the ping difference as of today, and obviously people isolating and all the rest of it. So that may change corporately. In terms of take up in the city, I could say yes, the youth with 2 Fs have got a different approach to people who are possibly my generation, let's put it that way, where their approach to the vaccine. There are many people in the city from an ethnicity problem that were worried. And I know there's a campaign around on Facebook with our cabinet officers to say that please be proactive, go to your doctor and get the vaccine. And I know that our councillors are going around doing different ward sessions on that. There is also an issue where people are quite liberated in as much as they think it's just a cold, and it doesn't matter if I get a cold, and they believe in the herd immunity process. So there is quite a lot of very different views. I mean, I can't really say it's just about the students necessarily. It's a whole variety within the city as to reasons as to why the people just don't want it.
It's interesting.
Malcolm,
Thank you.
Malcolm, we've got a few people making comments on the chat, so I won't try and read all them out, but they're very similar. issues around people having tests and people not wanting to have jabs, or population problems and things like that. Liz has got a hand up though to say something, so I'll let Liz come in. So I guess people can refer to the comments for what people are writing.
Okay.
Oh, poor Trace had to go to Old Trafford on Saturday. I'm not happy about that. That's not good for you. There's shirts you can get for that. They're called Liverpool shirts.
I'm not happy because I'm a Leeds fan.
Oh, no. Let's leave that then totally. How rude.
Hey, I'm a Liverpool fan. I'm going to come off now. Liz, when you're ready,
Right.
you're muted.
I just wanted to say that listening to this, it's quite interesting. As masks are no longer mandated legally, what's the difference between no jab, no job and somebody who refuses to wear a mask in the office? What would the disciplinary would cut in if somebody refused to wear a mask in the office?
Liz, I think from our point of view, we would ask the person if it's a medical reason. If it is a personal view, then we would probably ask them to stay in a room out the way. We would probably do that on the basis of everybody else's safety. Now, whether that's correct or not, I'm not one to cover that.
No.
Because clearly I'm not a medical practitioner and I certainly don't understand biology by any stretch of the means.
I think my point is that it's a minefield, whatever you think about. No jab, no job. I don't want to wear a mask. It's not a legal requirement anymore. What happens? What happens in the disciplinary process if this person, in fact, refuses to wear a mask, having been requested to do so?
I don't think we would go down that route. I have to say, I think it'd be a hot potato.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. I'm just saying, we've got all these things. No jab, no job. Mask wearing, and dare I say it, the idea that potentially people working from home might in fact have their salaries reduced.
I mean, on a complete aside, Liz, we had a long conversation at the start of the pandemic about whether cameras should be switched on, and there was a movement within the staff to complain that they didn't want their cameras on. I mean, I'm okay, I sit in a shed, as we all know, but some people don't want that intrusion in terms of their home. So it wasn't a disciplinary to switch your camera on. They asked you. If you didn't and you chose not to, then you just needed to explain at the start of the meeting you didn't choose to have your camera on so that people didn't think you were skiving during the meeting.
Yeah, I get that, but I think the whole idea, mask wearing is much more of a physical thing, isn't it? If you come into the office and you're not wearing a mask, that's much more. We all know that even if you don't want people to see your home, you can put a background on.
I think also, though, it's just quite an emotional thing, especially from my staff, because some of my staff are even today petrified and won't go out. They're worried, even though because the city is with such a low percentage, they're worried they're going to catch it, even though they've been double vaccinated. And if they won't go into the office on the basis that people will not wear masks. So I think there's also an emotional connection because they'd like to go into the office, but because of the conduct of others, it's actually affecting their well-being about the fact that they feel trapped indoors.
I think you're probably right. Again, every time we talk about it, every little aspect that comes up, it is incredibly complex, really. Yeah, involving all sorts of things, as you say, human emotion, worries, fears, and people who just feel they don't have to comply because there is no legal requirement to do so.
Okay, let me just jump in here. Gareth, I mean, these are all legitimate concerns, aren't they, around areas of law? But the mask wearing could be something that a local authority or an employer could insist on as part of their employment policy, especially private sector. It'd be less contentious than some of the other areas.
I think we're different in Wales, where mask wearing still is required in a lot of circumstances, but the test is always going to be that word that lawyers love, reasonable, isn't it? Whether it's a reasonable request to make, and whether people try and hide it, as making it part of, I don't know, required dress or something rather than a health issue. But whatever you do, whether you do it or don't do it, somebody's going to be unhappy and somebody's going to challenge it, I guess.
Yeah. It's, and I also think this is probably some of these areas, particularly as Liz raised them, are going to be difficult areas for trade unions to find a position on as well.
Having spent 2 years battling on a dress code at one point in my career, that isn't easy, so this won't be.
No. Okay. I see we've come up to 12:40. So
could I just ask one actual benefit related question, just to get a quick response, because I'm interested that the myth was lifted from the abolition of the myth was lifted from the 1st of August, but with discretion on DWP staff to leave it in place for up to 6 months. Are local authorities being told whether myths lifted and whether there's any discretion for self-employed people?
I haven't seen a circular on it.
Naomi?
No circular. No.
I think we're only going to be told when we get the universal credit notification come through.
Yeah, I would agree.
And even then they don't tell you, so you have to manually calculate it and work it out.
Thanks.
Okay,
and of course, the £20 goes from the first payment after the 2nd of October. So that's going to be the fun week, I suspect, or the fun month following that.
Yes, I'm expecting a lot of UC notifications. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, we are, but it depends on what your scheme says, really, doesn't it, for council tax reduction? Because we ignore the actual universal credit as an income. We're only interested in their earned income.
See, I don't. I do take it all into account, so I'm expecting benefit CTR expenditure to go up.
Yeah.
Okay, so on that jolly little note, I'm going to call it a day. Can I thank everybody who's participated? My panel, Laura and Gareth, Liz and Naomi, and also those that came in, Amanda and Megan and sorry, I'm old now. I can't even remember my children's names. But anyway, can I thank you all for coming in? Who did I miss, Nick?
Liz popped on for a second. Lynn came on for a second, didn't she? And Trace did have a hand up, but then pulled it down. So
okay, and all of you who put notes into the chat, that's all absolutely excellent. Okay, if we like this format, I will continue this format for a few more weeks, and see how we get on. Is that okay with everyone?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, and if the audience like it, can you just raise your hands? We might open your lines, but just to get a bit of a feel for if the audience prefer this kind of format. How's it looking, Nick?
yeah, there's plenty there.
Okay, all right. In which case, thank you all very much, and don't forget I'll be asking on WhatsApp group on what kind of subjects you want to talk about next week. I've got energy increases in the pot just in case, but happy to talk about anything else that anybody wants to talk about. So thank you all, and see you all next week. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
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 Yeah, I want to talk about inflation generally.